Chronic pain does not need to define you. Chronic pain is something that happens to us and through us, but it is not us. We can continue to be who we are. It is doable. There is lots of life in and through chronic pain. We can have victory in this on the other side of chronic pain. This forum is about that we can get to the other side of this. There are ways. And I would like to be able to combine some of our efforts, some of our thoughts, some of our experiences to find out what others have done. And this is about what I've done, what I've learned, and how I've moved forward. I'm not there, but I have moved forward. I'm in a better place. At times, I'm in a very good place. And that's what I'd like to talk about today.
Welcome to the View from Under the Bus, living a fulfilling life with chronic pain. I'd like to introduce you again to my brother, Sean, and he's going to share life experiences, his ability to cope, work through, and find possibilities that he never dreamed of, ways that he's overcome, and different things along this journey of chronic pain that he's walked through for now 18 years. Welcome, Sean.
Good morning.
We've had one session, yes, last week. We have gotten some views, and we're so thankful for that because we know that there are so many people that are living through chronic pain. As we said last week, that there's over 15 million people that have debilitating chronic pain. And through that process, sometimes people feel like they've been thrown under the bus. And that's kind of where you come up with that term. It helps us to understand maybe what people suffer with as they journey through their daily life. Is there something that you'd like to share about how you came up with that name?
That term has been around now for a number of years, but as I have moved through this journey, I found that my life has changed in a lot of ways as a result of my chronic pain. And I found myself constantly, not constantly, but often being relegated to obscurity.
And there's so many points about those feelings that drive you there. You hear people talk about, well, he threw me under the bus, or you just hear that term used quite a bit. How did you arrive that was what you were feeling and how you felt through the process?
Uh, I think it began with the isolation. Chronic pain tends to isolate us. Did me, just because I wasn't able to get out as much, and in some ways you don't have as much in common with other people because there's things that you can't do anymore. Some of the physical activities that I did in the past, I'm not able to do. So those friends, some of them have fallen away by the wayside, which is natural. But in other ways, sometimes people with chronic pain can be different to deal with, can be difficult to deal with. And, sometimes it's legitimate. Other times it's, self-induced. So that's kind of how I found myself under the bus.
I think the point of isolation is when somebody recognizes maybe they don't have the energy to
Yes.
interact.
Yes.
or that they don't have the physical ability to maybe go where they're being invited, so they choose to stay home, or
Right.
it's their own feeling of, I don't want to deal with that. They don't have the emotional stamina that's required. So they just, you just
Boy, yeah,
choose
good
to
point.
stay home.
Yeah, chronic pain does take an incredible amount of energy to deal with. Some of it we know, um, even with there's ways, there's medications, there's supplements, there's exercises that we can do. Our body still feels that chronic pain even if we take the medication, and it is still taking a toll whether we can feel the pain or not, which in in essence it takes away from our energy, it takes away from our desire. Sometimes special accommodations need to be made for some of us, which we don't want to put people out, we don't want to be singled out, we don't want to be special, we don't want people doing all of that. Sometimes that's just going to have to be the way it is, because that's our life now, that's our new normal. So that is a very, very valid point. Um, Speaking of valid, that is a huge point that you brought up earlier in our conversation off screen, was never let anybody say that your pain is invalid. Don't let them make you feel like your pain is invalid. Don't let them poo-poo it, or however you want to phrase that, or just gloss over it. Not that we need to bring it to the forefront or put it in people's faces, but our pain is valid. Just because it doesn't show, and I don't always walk with a limp, or I'm not missing, or a limb, or riding in a chair, that doesn't mean it's not just as valid. So
I
take heart
agree.
in
And
that. Yeah.
I think that one thing is to some of the points of that, of being under the bus, is that your view of the world is limited, is because you're stuck
In ways. Yeah.
to just what is there. And I think that is another point that is so easily fallen into is that isolation. It restricts your view of what's going on around you. Would
Right.
you like to
Yeah.
speak to
Which,
that?
yeah, and it does. And you don't get out much anymore, as the old phrase goes, which leads to depression, which is a part, it's almost, inextricably linked, I think, sometimes with chronic pain. And depression is a huge aspect, whether that is dealt with through medication, great medications out there now, um, much better than they were in the past, as well as activities, and being a student of our bodies, know what's going on with our bodies, being communicative with those around us, whether it's caregivers or loved ones, or medical staff, uh, without being a complainer. If we do talk about it, try to be succinct without rambling on. Those kinds of things, um, keep me from being stuffed completely under the bus, and in ways can help me get out from under the bus.
Well, I think, what is there another point that you talked about, just being able to communicate with medical staff, but I think that there's some other points that you can speak to about unintended self-absorption, that you
Yeah,
talked about, that where your view is limited because of the isolation, your world gets so much smaller.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of times with chronic pain, you're feeling it all the time, and it affects everything, whether it's with your kids or your grandkids, or coworkers, what have you. It's affecting you all the time. And it's very easy to become self-absorbed and just be concerned with, what's going on with me, because it is important. It's very important. But, I need to try to keep myself from being swallowed whole by it. And, some of the ways that I've combated that is by being interested in other people, asking questions, and waiting and listening for their response, not necessarily for my turn to speak, but listening to them. Even the medical staff, it's rare in a lot of instances where they get asked questions about themselves, about their kids, without being intrusive, of course, but what kind of day they're having, and so forth and so on, without just waiting for that opportunity to talk about myself. And that waiting for somebody else to ask me a question, maybe they're full, maybe they have chronic pain, we don't know. But being considerate of people, not overloading them with what's going on with me, is one of the ways in that I've dealt with some of those issues.
I think it's thing that came to my mind while you were speaking was you're choosing to find joy as you ask somebody else what's going on. You're choosing to find what might interest that other person. You're trying to find those nuggets that keep you from returning back to yourself and your own thoughts and feelings.
It actually does a couple of things. When, now that we talk about it, when I become outwardly focused, because pain it wants to just keep driving us into ourselves. And it's a very conscious effort sometimes to get outside of myself. I get sick of being in there. It's, anyway. But what it does is when I am outwardly focused, it helps with the isolation. It helps to minimize the isolation, and it can take away the depression as well that can come along with that. So it knocks out a couple of birds, actually. So it's really a very important tool that I use as much as I possibly can. It's almost like the natural go-to for me can be to drive inward, and stay there. And I don't really want to go out. I don't care what's going on with you, blah, da, da, I'm hurting, da, da, da. And as I do that, I forget about what's going on with me. I forget that, I've got these pain issues taking place. And that's what we want. That's a way forward, relief. And we're being involved in other people's lives. And, it really is a way forward.
One word that comes to my mind is you're using encouragement through those steps, both as a benefit for yourself, as well as you're encouraging somebody else all at the same time.
Well, yeah. And then there's the benefit to them, which, is huge. It's nice to have other people interested in our lives, and
Absolutely.
truly interested, not just as a textbook way of getting outside of myself. It's a true benefit to both. It should be at the end of it. There's both of us have been uplifted as a result of however brief or long that period lasted.
Exactly. And how the secondary benefits, like you said, it helps with the isolation, it helps
Mhm.
with the depression, and not
Yeah.
being so self-absorbed.
Mhm.
And what would you
As well,
say?
perception, it changes people's perception of us. So it really has, just tremendous benefits.
This is the end of part 1 of this interview. I do want to thank you for joining us for this time as Sean and I share about living a fulfilled life with chronic pain. We do ask you to hit the subscribe button and the notification button for when more videos are uploaded. Please, more than anything, we ask for your comments. We ask for your questions. We want to be a forum where you can share and that you can feel encouraged as you share your life and as we share ours. So on behalf of Sean and I, we want to say thank you.